So good morning, everybody, and welcome to Profit is Not a Dirty Word. We'll just see if we can get things working right. They look as though they're working right on my screen. And welcome to all of you for this this webinar. I've left one person unmuted, and that's Greg, and he's going to be happy to ask a million questions, right, Greg?
Okay, we'll try.
I've also got Wendy on board next to me, and Wendy knows a lot about profit and loss because you know, she's been my my finance expert behind the business for all those 40 odd years. So she's the one that handled all the numbers. So say morning, Wendy.
Good morning, everyone. How are you all?
Yeah, they're all well. I can see that, John, and is that's a Cecily? I haven't heard that name for a long time. And Kimberly. Kim, welcome. So just a short presentation on profit is not a dirty word. And as we know, in the photographic business, making a profit is becoming harder and harder as our expenditure goes up. And also we have problems increasing our pricing to cover those increases. And of course, with all the competition that we hear about, things seem to get harder and harder. So we just wanted to make you have a rethink and a relook at what you're doing, and see if we can help you a little bit to make a profit, which is what business is about, right? So profit is all about the money that's left after expenditure, and obviously to create money we have to get customers, and the way we get customers, of course, is to market and promote. Marketing promotion is the lifeblood of the business. Without customers, we don't have any money. Without customers, we don't actually have a business. So we have to market and promote. This should be our whole emphasis on business, and market if you didn't get it, and promote. So those are two things you really have to focus on for growth and profit. Now we hear a lot of photographers talking about, you know, they're busy, busy, busy. And then when you sit them down and talk to them about, so you're busy, you know, that must be fantastic. They say, oh, not so fantastic. I'm not making any money. In fact, I'm losing money. So growth should come with profit. So we want to give you a few clues on our experience of our business and how we sort of kept a profit line going through all of those years. So the first thing, as I say, obviously you put your marketing promotions that you can, and repeat and repeat and repeat. It should be almost a daily thing that you have to do marketing, marketing, marketing. Marketing is your lifeblood. That's the first thing you have to remember. You want your sales in any financial year to show some growth. This was one of my clients. This was her growth in her business. And I know along with all that growth from 2012 to 2013, she also saw a lot of profit. So that's the way we want our graphs to look at in a financial year. We want to see those great leaps in turnover. One of the key factors as well as creating a profit is to target your market. Now, target your market means positioning yourself in the marketplace so the customers come to you, but the right customers come to you. You want the customers coming to you that are going to spend the money. I talk a lot about in the seminars I give and the webinars and the photographers that I coach about positioning. More and more it's so important that small business position themselves in the marketplace to target their market. So if you're not doing that, if you haven't sort of sat down and really thought about your positioning in the marketplace, you should really do that and say, well, where do I stand? What customers am I trying to attract? And that may stop you competing with all the cheaper photographers. So being cheap is fine, but you've got to turn over an enormous amount of volume to be able to create a profit. Much better to go to the mid-higher range, for there, there is more profit per job. So what is a business? Now, a good business should look like this. At the top, of course, we've got sales coming in, big sales, and then it goes into the funnel. The funnel is the business. Out of the bottom, there should be small expenditure. So if we spend less than we turn over, obviously we're going to make what we like to be known as a profit. And making that profit is obviously the key to sustaining a business. Of course, a lot of businesses can look like the inverted funnel. The sales are small, coming in the top, and the expenditure is enormous at the bottom. So that's called a non-profit organization or a charity. So if your business is a charity, you've really got to try and turn that around and flip that funnel right back over the other way. So we get loads of dollars coming in the top and small dollars coming out the bottom. So how can we do that? So we'll talk to Wendy a little bit about that. Let's go through some of these points, Wendy, with profit, about minimizing all of your overheads, staff rent, expenditure, etc. What are your comments there?
Well, staff are a big trap to fall into. Staff, it's not the only cost you have are the salaries or wages of your staff. It's all those additional costs that we don't consider when we put someone on, like your work cover, your insurance, your taxes, all of those things contribute to staff costs. And in fact, it works out in the end that what you pay an hourly rate to your staff is in fact double with all those extra costs on top, something to be very much aware of. Rent is another one. It's not
just getting back to staff, just getting back to staff, Wendy, sorry about that, the Skype call coming in. So with staff, what can you do though? You need staff, you're busy, what can you do? What do you suggest?
I think the best thing to do, especially with staff, is to try and get someone who has an ABN and perhaps comply with the rules regarding subcontractors. You can do that with shooters, with extra shooters. The other way of dealing with it is to outsource any jobs that you have that's possible to outsource rather than put someone on the payroll. It's, with super guarantee going up 1% every year and work cover and so on, it's becoming almost prohibitive in very small business and micro business to employ people, especially on a full-time basis. So it's worth looking at outsourcing, and it's worth looking at employing people as subcontractors.
So what else can we outsource? We know we can outsource post-production.
You can outsource your accounting, your bookkeeping, all of those things, but make sure that...
So can we outsource this where? Can we outsource this to India or Pakistan, or can we outsource it locally, but then we may have prohibitive costs?
I think your bookkeeping and so on you need to outsource locally, but it's quite competitive, so you can shop around. It's just like any service provider. You need to shop around and go with someone you trust. But certainly don't accept the first quote you get, as no one would. You can shop around for all of these things.
And I suppose also, you can negotiate, as you say, on costs or what they're going to charge you. But one of the key areas which we've spoken about recently is by the owner of the business actually really keeping track of what's happening with the money coming in and going out of the business. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's essential to keep your eye on the ball, even though it takes a bit of effort, and it's something that we all like to put our head in the sand about. Um, Even if you have a bookkeeper, an accountant, you must know what's going on a weekly basis rather than even monthly. We've heard of a number of small businesses lately who have been hit with a very big tax bill at the end of a financial year that they weren't expecting because, you know, they trusted their accountant to keep things ticking along. And that brings us to the point about the structure of your business, whether you have, you know, a sole trader, whether you're a proprietary limited company, whether you're a partnership, all of those things are important, and whether you pay your GST monthly or quarterly, whether you draw a wage and pay PAYG tax on it to avoid that sort of a pitfall, because nobody wants a tens of thousands of dollars tax bill at the end of a financial year. And as I say, we've heard of a number of small businesses lately that have had that issue. And it's a terrible pitfall, and it can destroy you. So you have to be aware of that.
And of course, that's great. They're making a profit, but when you're suddenly hit with a $50,000, $60,000 bill that you didn't expect, that can knock you back years. And as we know, we've spoken to some small businesses, a small business over the weekend, and they're still paying off a $40,000 tax bill after 2 years.
Yeah, it's something that should well be avoided, and that's by keeping your eye on the ball. Rent is another issue. We all want a fabulous facility. We shouldn't overdo it. Keep an eye on those rent figures. If you've signed a 5x5 lease that you can't get out of, you can find yourself in all sorts of problems. I would err on the side of conservatism in terms of your premises and your rent. More and more businesses are working from smaller premises. They're sharing premises, which I think is the way to go. 2 or 3 businesses in the one commercial office to keep expenditure down. It's just another thing to look at.
And looking at expenditure also, I find, you know, we all have a tendency to overstep a little bit. We buy a lot better car than we really need. We spend when we've got the money instead of putting some away to preserve for the future for the not so good times.
That's exactly right. And you've got to, in a seasonal business, as a lot of businesses are, you need to take account of the fact that you're going to go through a low season and you need to pay your bills during that low season.
And negotiation at costs of advertising. Now, a lot of people don't know about distress rates. And distress rates come with local newspapers, magazine advertising, whether it be bridal expos. Bridal expos, you know, a week before you may get the organizer phoning you up and saying, look, we've had someone pull out, you know, can we, we're looking for someone to come in. Normally we charge $4,000 for this. We're willing to let it go for $1,000. So if you hold back with a lot of things, as well as advertising in local paper, and in fact tell them, I used to be listed as looking for distress rates with my local newspaper, that they'd phone me and say, Bernie, you know, we're going to print in 24 hours. We've got this ad. You know, it's a 3x2. It's normally $600, but we're willing to let it go at $150. But you've got to get the artwork to us in an hour. So if you're prepared and to receive that phone call, have something ready, you can save a lot of money, especially with bridal fairs. 2 years ago, we had someone in a bridal fair that was normally $6,000 and they only paid $1,000 for a 3x2 stand. So just be aware there's always negotiation there if you're willing to wait. Don't sort of jump in, always try and negotiate. And that, of course, money saved is money made. In fact, it's profit, you know, that you've made. And the other thing, I find a lot of photographers are charging too small a deposits on wedding bookings. There's a lot of difference between getting, say, a $500 booking and a $1,000 booking. For example, if you've got, say, just 20 weddings booked in advance, and you're getting a $500 deposit, that means that you've got $10,000 in deposits. But if you were charging $1,000 deposit, you'd have $20,000 sitting in the bank, hopefully, as deposits. So quite often those deposits would carry us through the quieter months. Having that, because bills always keep coming in the quieter months. And usually, funnily enough, the bills come in because you've had the season, you've ordered products from your suppliers, and then they start sending you the bill. So you have to drag that out over the winter period anyway. You just pay them so much a month. But if you take a larger deposit, you may have a lot more cash in the bank to be able to pay these. So, and also getting full payment on portrait sales. I still see photographers who are charging, say, 50% on a portrait sale and then 50% when the client collects it. I've never done that. I've always had full payment up front. So those were my terms. And very rarely did I deviate from that. I mean, if the consumer knows that those are your terms, then they come in prepared to pay full payment. And obviously the best way of doing that is with credit card. And we found still a lot of photographers don't have credit card facilities. So what are your thoughts on that, Wendy?
I feel that you don't really have a business unless you have credit card facilities. These days, very few people, and you probably know yourselves, very few people carry cash around. We pay pretty much everything via credit card, and unless you've got those facilities, you're not really a fair income business. The other issue is too that you can negotiate with your bank regarding the merchant rates. The banks, and if they're not cooperative, just go to another bank. Keep shopping around. Again, they're a supplier. They want your business. They will try and put you through hoops. If the hoops are too big, just go to another bank and see what they'll do. I've found over the years that if you go to the bank and say, you're charging me too much percentage on my merchant account, they'll say, oh, okay, we'll drop it then. They've never argued. They always cooperate, and it's a matter of asking.
So give us some idea of costs. So if you to take credit card facilities, what are the costs around about?
Look, it could probably, if it costs you about $30 a month to have credit card facility plus a merchant fee, which is a percentage of what you take, it's well worthwhile because you could increase your sales enormously by having that facility because it allows your clients to pay off. It's a form of lay-by for them without you footing the bill. In other words, they can pay off their credit card, but you have the money. You'll find it'll turn things around enormously if you have credit card facilities.
Yeah, I think that's one of the keys. Of course, there are a lot of other methods, but credit cards sort of, at least you've instantly got it, the customer's made a commitment, and it's certainly a good way of getting the full amount on your sales. And of course, with weddings, the same. Some photographers take a large deposit, let's say $950, then maybe 3 months later there's another payment of half the balance owing, and then they pay the full balance 2 weeks prior to the wedding. So they dribble out that cash flow, and that's a good idea also. So as we spoke about earlier about preparing for the quieter months by having some money in the bank, this is one of the keys, because if a business starts to struggle, for sure it's going to struggle in those quieter months. And unfortunately, photography is an industry that is, seasonal. And as far as I was concerned, winter used to be August in Melbourne, and then it used to be July and August, and then winter was June, July and August. So you had 3 quiet months, and now sometimes it can be 4 quiet months. So that's a quarter of the year where there's not much happening. So that's the other thing, going back to the beginning, is about promotion. and being prepared for those quieter months, you've got to know they're coming. So you've got to put things in place in your marketing, promotion, advertising. You really have to try and drive your business in those quieter months to get cash flow in. But if you have prepared a little bit, if you have put some money aside, then you should be able to sustain that quieter time and still see yourselves as making a profit even through the quietest time. And if you can do that, you've got a really successful business. So has anyone got any questions at all? I don't know whether you've got any, Greg, any questions at all on that? No?
Yeah, I did write some down here. Targeting your market. How do you specifically target a market?
Well, first of all, you have to position yourself for that market. And positioning is defining yourself and your work. It's positioning / branding is the first step in putting your business together. So if you don't know what customers you're trying to attract, where are you going to attract them? If we look at it more a niche market, if we can get really niche, I was consulting with a photographer yesterday who's a pet photographer, and which is fine because she photographs a lot of dogs, which is fine. But I said, so if we're going to target your market, who owns these dogs? And she said, oh, I want to target, you know, the women I see with driving a Porsche with the dog next to her. So that's a target market. So then the question is, where do these people, I said, so where do these people buy the food for the dogs? Where do these people go to get services for the dogs and that? And she knew. So it was pretty easy. It's going to be pretty easy now to target those businesses to help us with the marketing. So that's just one example.
Okay.
It's like putting...
So if you,
yeah, go on, Greg.
yeah, go on. I was going to say, once you've got those, you've identified that market, what sort of offer do you make to them? And then how do you qualify them to be the ones that are going to spend without making them upset that, hey, you've given me an offer, but now you don't want to deal with me?
Well, that's a coaching course. There's no short answer to it. I'm sorry, there really isn't.
I want that pill. Just
you want the magic pill? Well, we're coming out with magic wands, but they still cost money. There's no. It's a matter of building your business. You know, positioning is the first thing, and then that's what I do when I coach. Find out exactly what target market, what niche, what a photographer likes photographing within their area, and it's always within the locality. It's you know, it's not a worldwide thing. We just want to make money within our own area. So positioning is first. How do we see ourselves? Are we exclusive? Are our products, if we are exclusive, are our products exclusive? Do we do, you know, photographs on art paper? Do we have some particular quality frame that's imported from Italy? Are we catering for the people we want to attract? Because, you know, it is interesting. We all shop, you know, at different places. You know, some women will go in and buy a couple of Prada bags at a time. It's not just one, you know. They might spend $10,000 on 2 bags, and that's fine. But you get others who will buy a bag at the market for $30. So when we try and define our market, we can certainly go where they shop. And it all comes together more in answering your question about how do we get them to accept the offer. Well, we already know a lot about them, so we know how to market, how to target, the words to use. so they're more likely to accept our offer.
Right. Yep.
You know, it's a matter of using the right bait when you go fishing. It's no just throwing a lot of different bait in and hoping a big fish gets on there. If we, you know, and fishermen make it specific. They know, you know, when to fish, where to fish, what bait to use, what hook, what rod, whatever, to give them a best chance of getting a big fish. So we have to do that also in business, especially in our marketing. But you can understand separation is the most important thing. You've got to separate yourself from others.
Yeah, that's a very, very hard, well, I've found very hard to identify why I am so different to the rest. How do I differentiate myself?
I agree. It is a hard thing to do. You can try having a discussion with yourself in the mirror, but you know that's what I do as a coach. I draw it out of people by asking the right questions, and then we start to find clarity. And clarity and focus are two of the main things. You know, having that focus on knowing what you're trying to achieve, knowing. And I know it takes time. Look, it wasn't easy for me. It's taken me a long time of study and reading about it and all of that. You know, and sometimes I didn't see it myself. I know when I took on my coach, my business coach a few years ago and paid thousands of dollars, one thing I look back on was they gave me the ability to focus, and I didn't know what made me different as a coach. And they said, well, don't worry about it. We'll do it. We'll sort it out for you. And they came up with my USP, my unique selling proposition of over 45 years of experience. I didn't even see that. But that's the thing that makes me unique as a coach. There aren't many like me. Well, I'm the only one. So that's pretty good separation, isn't it? So sometimes you can't see it yourself. It takes an outsider to see it.
Right.
But it is one of the key things, as you know. Otherwise, you'll just, you get lost. I hear it all the time from photographers who say they've got cheaper photographers and this and that, and that they're diminishing their business, when I don't think they are. If the photographer would put the prices up, put their prices up and separate themselves by being expensive. And that's what I did. I know on my website I put that I'm an upmarket photographer. I never, you know, was embarrassed to say, yeah, I am expensive. But also, if you're expensive, you also have to, you know, have the other things that go in place, as I mentioned, about having the products, having the photography, having the way you present in every way, to live up to that. It's no use saying I'm great and you're not. If you're great, you've got to show you're great. I mean, you know, Muhammad Ali was great, wasn't he? He said, I am the greatest. He talked the talk, but he sure walked the walk. He punched the punch. Yeah, I mean, he talked, but gee, he laid the base that he was one of the greatest, if not the greatest. So that's one of the keys. And the making profit, just getting back to the webinar content, it is very, very important that you position yourself. Now, you can position yourself in many ways. Sometimes it's in a niche market, and that's what a lot are doing. You know, Wendy and I can't believe it. There's some of the niche markets around here in retail. We've got the Spud Bar, right? The Spud Bar. This is a franchise, and they're everywhere. They sell potatoes.
all with different toppings on, so you can choose your toppings. There's yogurt bars that just sell yogurt with different toppings. There's pressed juice bars. Everything is very specialised, and perhaps that's the way we should be looking at specialising our market, to find your niche rather than being a general practitioner.
We've got, you know, instead of hairdressing salon, we've got blow dry bars. They just give blow dries. The hair. They don't wash hair. They don't cut hair. They just give this, you know, styling. We've got a hamburger joint down the road here that sells 3 types of hamburger. There's a vegetarian, and then there's 2 other meat ones, one without and one with a lot. So, you know, you want a fried egg on, you can't have it. You want beetroot, you can't have it. You have what you have. So, and that's all they sell is hamburgers and drinks. They don't sell anything else. So it's really specific marketing as well. So that's the other thing, and that's a hard one to go to, obviously, because, you know, as a photographer, we should have the ability to photograph anything for profit, which is what I did, and that may be the difference between in my era to now, is you can't be everything to everybody. All right. So it's food for thought, but Greg, feel free to email me if you like, because Wendy and I both have appointments now, so we're just going to close this webinar. And thanks all for joining us, to John and Sally, and Anna, and Peter was aboard, and Greg, and all the rest of you, and Peter, Cecily. Yeah, I said Cecily before. Thanks for joining us, and Greg, you as well, and for your input today. And we wish you all well. And as I say, you know, your success is my success, and every success to you. So continue on if I can help in any way. Look, I answer a lot of emails. I talk to a lot of photographers daily, so never be afraid to contact me, because I'm always here, and I'll get back to you quickly. All right, so
Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon.
all right. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. All right.